You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 99, Song Ratings Revisited. And coming to you from the thawing out suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, I'm your co-host, John Rough and Ready Matola.
Rough and Ready. It's a rare one that I know.
The first time I used a song title.
That's right. You're ready to go, and we're
I think
coming to you early in the morning, rare early morning recording. And
Nate texted me and said, all right, I'm ready to go in 10 minutes. I said, me too. As Coverdale would say, I'm a rough and ready, referring to the fact that I feel like I look pretty rough after getting out of bed and just coming up to recording, but we don't have a lot of people that see us on as many people that see us on YouTube, so ignore the visual.
Hello to our 50
probably
YouTube viewers. But yeah, this is the first show I'm doing in probably about a year where the kids are out of the house. Drop them off at school. Gonna record this morning nice and early. So
wow,
yeah. So it's like they've been pretty good. They really haven't interrupted anything with the show, but the threat of no interruptions is gone. So very relaxing.
Yeah, nice and relaxing. Yeah.
So we're coming to you today to episode 99, big one. So we're as we gear up for our 100th episode extravaganza next week, we thought it would be interesting because we get these comments all the time from people saying, how come you rated this song that, or you rated this song this? And we thought it would be interesting to kind of freeform go through some of our song ratings, not all of them, obviously, and just see some of the ones that maybe stuck out to us as having been too high, too low, or maybe we want to challenge each other on what our ratings were and kind of talk about it, talk about our feelings. If our feelings have changed over the years we've been doing the show, now we're not going to change them in the spreadsheet, I don't think, but just to kind of talk about what they are. And if you want access to the spreadsheet, you become a patron on Patreon and have access to our full spreadsheet, which I don't think we've ever mentioned on the show before.
I don't think you have.
I think we've only kind of talked about it with the patrons, like when they sign up, if they want access to it. So a few people have asked to be shared on the document so you can look at it yourself and see what we've rated things. Give you more of a reason to even get angrier at us, because when you say
no, you can't edit it.
Exactly.
You can't edit it.
When you say it on the show, it just it goes out into the air, and unless you're like Rich or someone who listens back and challenges us on a daily basis over our ratings, most people are just like, 3, that's crazy, and then they move on. But in this case, you can actually look at the whole spreadsheet and get angry at us about it.
Mostly he challenges and gets angry at you.
Yeah, mostly. That is true. That is true. Which is weird because you're the one that's much stingier with your ratings.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe you're
so
generous in the right places and I'm stingy in the wrong places. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. So far I've avoided the wrath of Rich.
I don't know if you've avoided it.
I'm
the
sure
wrath,
the
but maybe in that
soon.
category you have. But in other
in that category only. Other categories I have not.
Plenty of wrath. But as we come up on episode 100, we just mentioned Patreon. There's a few ways that you can support the show. Patreon is one of them. For as little as $1 a month, support the show. Another one is leaving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. And the other is you can donate via PayPal if you want to. So speaking of Apple Podcasts, as we discussed last week, Apple Podcasts does things really stupid, and they have all the ratings. Basically, if you log on in your country, you only see the ratings for your country. You have to change the 2-letter country code to see other countries' ratings, which is really dumb. So for today, so every week now we're kind of going to a different country to see a rating. And this one today is another old one. Well, older. This one comes to us from Halloween Day 2020 from the great country of Australia. It's 5 stars from Electric Mayhem. One of rock's bests. Deep Purple as a band and their contribution is criminally underrated. This is a great podcast that shines light on the band, its members, and their musical family tree. Great listen. So thank you, Electric Mayhem, and hopefully you're still, like I said last week, hopefully these people are still listening to the show since these reviews are so old. Um, but we appreciate it. Keep writing those reviews. I'm sorry that we just discovered this, but thanks to Scott Haskin at the Magicians Podcast for enlightening me on this absolutely insane way that Apple does their podcasts. You can't see them all in one place. So who knows what country
You know,
we're
I
up
forgot
next
to
week.
ask, am I able to see that, or is only the creator able to see it,
No,
like
no,
you, like
any,
your login?
anybody can see it if you go to our Apple Podcasts link. So if I
Oh,
if I
okay.
if I go to our Apple Podcasts link, which I got a little link right here, click it. It says
Only on the desktop, right?
um correct. So it says
Okay.
podcast.apple.com/US. So it defaults to the US. I'm seeing the US reviews. But if you know, you can Google what the 2-digit country codes are. Like I think it's AU for Australia, GB for Great Britain, JP for Japan, so you can just, but the stupid
Right.
thing is you have to go, there's what, 190 something countries. You have to type each one in individually to see what they are. You can go to China. I think China's CN. Of course, we're probably banned in China, so there won't be any reviews. And obviously fewer reviews in countries where English isn't the predominant language. But yeah, so it's, if I don't, as a listener, you're probably not interested at all, but if you do have a podcast that you want to check that out for, you can. And I was wondering, because people were telling me that they were writing reviews that were like from the UK, for example, and I just never saw them come up. So I thought, maybe they just got busy and they forgot to do it. And then all of a sudden I learned this, and I go back and I'm like, oh, we've got dozens of reviews from the UK that I've never seen. So again, really stupid way to do it, but that's the way that Apple has chosen to do it. So speaking of our patrons via Patreon, we have, this will be the last show, by the way, that we're going to do it in this format. We're going to mix it up a little bit, starting episode 100, change the format slightly, uh, break these up a little bit because the list is getting long, and that's a good thing. At the $20 Shades of Deep Pockets tier, Ryan M. At the $15 Highball Shooter tier, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg. At the Turn It Up to $11 tier, we have Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Clay Wambacher, and Mikkel Steen. At the $10 Someone Came tier, Steve Seaborg of NameOnAnything.com and AllTheWorldsAstage.net, Jeff Bryce, Gerald Kelly, and Victor Campos. At the episode $6.66 tier, Richard Fusey. At the $5.99 nice price tier, Fielding Fowler. At the $5 money lender tier, we have Greg Sealby, John Convery, Arthur Smith, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Kenny Wymore, Jesper Alman, Alexi the Perfect Stranger Slepikov, and James North. At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, Peter Gardot, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Anton Glaving, Will Porter, and Andrew Meyer. And at the $1 made-up name tier, L's Murders, Spacey Noodles, The Lurid Leaky Mausoleum, Michael Vader, Stephen Somerville, the Concerto 1999 fanatic, and Raf Kaff, and John dropping his phone, I think.
Sorry.
Sorry to Michael Vader or
Whoops.
Stephen Somerville, whoever that interrupted. Yeah, so thank you to all of you guys. Thank you to everyone at the Deep Dive Podcast Network. We now have deepdivepodcastnetwork.com. You can check it out. It doesn't really have anything on it right now, but we're hoping to have a kind of unified site on it. It has an awesome logo designed by Rye, and that's about it. And then we're going to eventually, hopefully, have some more stuff, links to merch and stuff. All those guys have great merch now. Well, not all those guys, but some of them have some great merch to hawk. Speaking of our merch, check out our Etsy store. There's a link in the show notes if you want to purchase t-shirts and mugs. We just got a t-shirt order in today. Got plenty of t-shirts and mugs left over if you would like to purchase one. Okay. Yes.
I would like to make a point about the t-shirts, as I wear mine all the time.
Mhm.
And I think I've washed it like 3 or 4 times.
Mhm.
I recommend line drying it because I accidentally put it in the dryer. I never, the things that I dry are not on like a high heat, but the logo started to fade like a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. And I'm like, I was kind of pissed about it because I'm like, this is too soon for the logo to be fading on me. But it's like, I feel like it was because of the dryer, because I like, I hang a lot of my clothes and the logo was fine until then. So I think that, heat will adversely affect it. So do not try to avoid putting your deep purple t-shirts in the dryer.
Yeah, I had the same experience, and I kind of was like, oh, it's kind of cool. It makes it looks like our podcast has been around a little. You know, when you get those shirts that have like are you buy them and
Yeah.
they look kind of pre-worn a little bit, so it kind of looks like, oh, cool, our
Yeah.
podcast has been around. Oh, we've been doing this for like 10 years. No, well, maybe not 10 years. It looks it doesn't look that
5
worn.
years.
But yeah, it's a great
But I'm worried that it's going to wear out too quick. So pro tip.
yeah, that is a good idea. I should start line drawing mine as well. Um,
Hmm.
I don't do laundry detail in this house though. So whatever my wife decides she wants to do, that's what I'll go with. Um, so um, yeah. So this week, like I said, we're talking about song ratings, and I've got a short little list of ones I think we should cover. But we could just start it in alphabetical order if you wanted to.
Sure.
Did you sort this by something?
Yeah, I think I was sorting it like
Oh,
while
by
you were
no.
talking
Oh,
just
you
to
sorted
see,
it by
and
low
so now
number.
you could sort it back.
Okay,
I was just trying to see, like, I can't really, that wouldn't help me. It was not helpful for me.
It was
So
sorted by low rating. But oops.
yeah, which all of them still make sense from what I can see. So no challenges there.
Yeah, let's see here. Do I have? I'm having trouble getting this back. Ah, here we go. Okay. So yeah, like I said, there's been a few that I've kind of maybe I don't know, regretted or thought differently of after time, and there's been like quite a few that we've been challenged on by irate listeners. Mostly for nobody's been like angry about it, but like there's been some
Like
people who,
real angry.
yeah, some people have been fake outrage,
Yeah, I say
or
fake angry.
or have just been like I can't believe you only give like the one. Well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. There's one that I've been called to task on a lot. But starting with the very beginning, you know, I don't know how you want to do this, but I'm seeing Hush being rated a 2 by you.
Hmm.
You feel we haven't really been called out on that one. Maybe we will now, but are you still hold firm on the 2 rating for Hush?
I think that if I were to rate it today, I might bump it up to a 3.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is that at the beginning of the show, we were probably rating on like a different scale. I know we've had a lot of conversations about it, like sometimes like three-way conversations. Like I think one time with Rich we did too, like about our approach at the beginning and how it evolved and
Yeah.
everything. So my guess without going back and listening is like it was probably like fatigue factor,
Mm-hmm.
having heard it a million times. But the thing is that it's Hush is played in a lot of public places like supermarkets and stuff like those playlists and stuff. And every time that I hear it, I'm always like, I don't mind hearing it. Like when I'm at work or something, I hear it over a loudspeaker. Like I'm always like, yeah, Rod. It's like it's familiar, and I always look forward to John Lord's keyboard solo,
Mm-hmm.
especially like the end chorus um, type of like outro thing, you know. I kind of always do, and then that made me think like, oh, I kind of enjoy this more than I thought. So it's like, while I wouldn't give it a 4 for being great or original or anything, I'd probably give it like a 3, maybe a 3.5 now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because I think that, you know, for the past like couple of years, my point of view on it has evolved, I guess.
Yeah, I agree, and I think like early on we were, yeah, if we rated the early albums now, we would probably rate them a little differently because um, we didn't have as much of a backlog of ratings to go on. But I gave Hush a 3, and I would probably leave it around 3 for us. Is usually it's a good song. It's not like anything I'm going to go crazy over, but it's like it's a good track. And I I think Hush might get ranked differently, like you said, if it wasn't for that fatigue factor, if going to the mall or being in an elevator or being, you know, it's like one of those songs you can't escape. It's one of those songs that there's so many songs that I hear on a daily basis, not daily basis, but often, where I'm just like, wow,
Mhm.
I've heard the song thousands of times in my life, but never have I listened to it voluntarily. Never has it been through
Right.
any action I've taken or put on the album or searched it and listened to it. Um, songs that like come to mind are like Jack and Diane, or any Bruce
Right.
Springsteen song, or any song by U2, or uh, songs like that, like a lot of like those hits that we would have grown up with in the 80s. That even if I like them mildly, I've never been the cause for the song being played. Anything like Living on a Prayer or something like that, I just, nothing against the song, I've
Well,
never voluntarily played it.
I'll tell you that it's like the reason too that I say that is there's another interesting one which has nothing to do with Deep Purple, but it just kind of proves my point is that there's also like that, I guess it's like the late 90s station, they'll have like the generic
Mhm.
um what do you call them, satellite stations that they'll play in like public places or whatever. And we have one of those where I work, and the like that station has been on for a while, and I I hear a lot of Hanson,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
Bop and
Yep.
Where's the Love, which were um two of their hits, like from their first album, like back in 97 or whatever. And like when they come on, I actually like I don't want to say look forward to it, but it's like I don't mind it. I'm just kind of like, oh, because it's, I don't know, it's familiar or it's
Yeah.
catchy. I mean, there's a reason that they were hits in the first place. So there's something about them where I find them like pleasant, but I wouldn't like rush to the car and be like, I gotta hear this on my way home. Like it's so, and it's the same thing with Hush, is just like I find it pleasant to listen to as background music because it's familiar and it's catchy. There's something catchy about it, but I'm not like, to your point, what you said, I wouldn't put it on intentionally
Yeah.
in the car, around the house, to rock out to. But when it comes on, I don't mind it. So
I,
I
I
would say that's why I give it a 3 or a 3.5.
yeah, there's certain songs that I got so overloaded on when I was working in the restaurant. We'd just have the radio on and be working these like 15-hour shifts or whatever, just cooking and listening to music. And we'd have it like,
Yeah.
this was whatever, 1995, and you'd have like Santeria by Sublime, and like it's that song by uh this song I've heard 4,000 times. I can't think of the title. One of those 311 songs. And then there's like Alice in Chains Unplugged. And like, I actually pulled up on Spotify Alice in Chains Unplugged the other day and listened to it because I was just like, and I'm not a Alice in Chains fan by any means, but I was just like, wow, it just took me back to being in the restaurant 25 years ago and cooking. And
Yeah.
so like those certain songs, like, yeah, I may have never really listened to them voluntarily, but yeah, like the bop sort of thing. There's like a comfort level with them. It kind of takes you back. Um, yeah. And Hush, I guess, is in that category for both of us, where it's like it's a song you kind of hear on the radio, and it's one of those songs that when I started getting into Deep Purple, didn't even realize it was Deep Purple, and I'd already heard it a million times. Um, and I think we've talked about that on the show before. It's saying, "Wow, Ian Gillan's voice really changed between that and Smoke on the Water." We finally
There's
figured that.
another one too. You were, you were talking about something that brings you back. A song that they played like in like on that public radio, and they still do, is that song "Kiss Me" by Sixpence None the Richer. Do you remember that one?
God, no,
Kiss me beneath the milky twilight. You know that one?
maybe doesn't sound familiar.
It was like if you heard it, you would. But I remember hearing it when I worked in a grocery store, like in the 90s when it came
Yeah,
out, and like it was new.
was that
And I hear
Almax?
it now, and it makes me think of no, no, I don't
You
think.
gotta
I
throw
think it
that in
was
there for Peter
Stop and Shop.
Gardot. I don't know if Peter Gardot knows that you work for Almax, but that sounds like that would be right up his alley.
I did. Peter's gonna have a field day now.
He's gonna
No,
dig out.
no,
I bet
this
he's
was
got some
no, this
Almax
was
bags in the
after.
basement. He's gonna bring out and send. My email is gonna get overrun with pictures of Almax products.
Oh geez, I think I kept my old smock somewhere. Maybe I'll like pull that out if Peter petitions hard enough.
Well, I remember you had the
The
guy
old-
that I don't. We can cut this out if I'm not supposed to mention this, but there was a guy you worked with for Almax. I think he was your boss or
yeah,
something, and there was like an ad. They had like an ad in the Sunday paper, and he was
I
not even on
remember.
TV, and he's like, "Hey, Almax is going to be okay," because the rumors were out there that the company was going down the toilet, and
And then
it's
it did go down the toilet.
you, you know it's a good
Go
sign.
down the toilet.
You know it's a good sign when the company has a commercial on TV that's like, "Hey, don't worry about it. We're not going out of business." And then and they have a and I had a picture of
And
that
then they
guy,
just like,
that
yeah,
guy
you
like coming
did.
in
And
circular, and hey, Almex is going to be
but do you
okay.
remember the way they spelled okay was like really amusing to us, because it was just like you were like okay and then dash AY or so. They spelled it
Oh,
weird.
like
Do you remember that?
O dash KAY, like oh wait,
Yeah,
nobody's
yeah, they
ever
spelled it.
spelled it. Yeah.
Yeah, they spelled it really weird. And he was like had this really optimistic smile on, and then cut to like 2 months later, like, oh, next fires chapter 11. You know, we're just like, well, I guess we're not going to be okay.
Yeah.
But luckily, I was 17 and could just find another job very easily, or 20 or whatever I was. So it's
Yeah.
like I went to Stop and Shop and heard that song about a million times, but I remember it being new. So
Yeah. Notably, Stop and Shop did not have a commercial where they said, "Hey, Stop and Shop's going to be okay." And notice they're still in business. If you have a commercial where you're telling your customers that, "Hey, don't worry, we're not going to go out of business," it's already over.
yeah, start rushing the store and buying that store brand spices or whatever,
Yeah.
because they're going out of business.
Yeah, and if you work there, update you can, if they tell you in working there, hey, you have to make this commercial. Sure, make that commercial, but as soon as you're done filming, go update your resume and get ready for something else. It's not happening. But anyway,
Get your finances in order.
okay, so
Oh.
we got Hush. Any other songs on these early albums that jump out to you as being like, I mean, I'm looking at my 2 for I'm So Glad, and I'm, if anything, I'd move that lower. I think that's totally
Well,
fine.
I'll say after our Doors episode, hearing the intro of it, you remember the intro was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think that might have been why I gave it a 2, because like the instrumental part leading up to it
Yeah.
was good, but then the I'm So Glad part, oh no, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the actual song I would still, what did I give it? Did I give it a 2?
We both gave it a 2, yeah. But I think I was a little
Yeah,
more
I would
vocally
probably,
against it.
if we could separate it, I would probably give the intro like a 3 or a 3.5, because
Yep.
like a few weeks ago, whenever we did that Deep Purple Doors episode and we heard that, I was like, yeah, this is like really good. Like I really like the intensity of the intro and everything, but then the droning I'm So Glad, like that's going on for like 20 minutes or whatever, was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is still like unbearable, forget it.
I'm so glad when it's over.
I'm pretty sure we made that joke a couple of years ago too.
Probably. Anything else on the early albums, the Mark 1 stuff?
I don't know. Do you see anything that sticks out that you would challenge me on besides besides Ush?
Nothing that we were pretty much in line. But the only thing I think
Or
I would
anything you would change?
I mean, I gave April a 4, and if anything, I would go higher on April. I love it. Even though I know it's like a 9-minute instrumental intro, but there's so many cool parts of it. I mean, to me, it was kind of like almost like John's knocking over everything. We can only record at night. John's like wrecking the place over there. But
I don't have control of my hands this early in the day.
He's Italian. He talks with his hands. Hey, but I think with April, like,
hey, they're tired. Okay.
I think like
so
it was
yeah,
almost
go
like
ahead.
John Lord like warming up for the concerto. It was like a practice because he did all these like cool instrumental parts.
Yeah.
They've got that little like thing that inspired the Legend of Zelda song in the middle, and they've got all this great stuff. And I really dig that track. And then when the song finally comes in, it's like this release. It's like, oh my God, it's been working up to this. And I just think that song is so awesome. And then Ritchie's solo at the end was like absolutely incredible. So if anything, I'd give that
remember you just being so blown away by like his arpeggios at the end. You're like, who does that? You were like freaking out.
Well, it's crazy because it's 1969. He's busts out these sweep arpeggios, and I don't recall a time he ever did it again. I'm sure he did it like live or something, but I can't think of at least audibly of a time where Ritchie busted out some sweep arpeggios other than that. And that was so early on. His playing only got better and better and better. And just shows you his like, he was just like, I proved I could do it. And I think I said in the moment, like, it's almost like he not that he invented sweep arpeggios, but it's almost like in the moment he spontaneously burst into them, having never done them before because he was just so into that solo. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
could
was
go higher on that.
definitely, yeah. I mean, I would say that like just looking over my Deep Purple self-titled, I feel like my like ratings are pretty consistent with what I do now. I mean, I knew that they would be higher than the other two, but you know what? One that I'm looking at that that I'm curious about is you gave Chasing Shadows a 3. And I'm wondering why
Yeah,
that was like, that's a great song. And I gave it a 4, and I'm wondering why you didn't give it higher now. Like, do you still feel the same about Chasing Shadows? Because that's a pretty kick ass song.
I think I do still feel the same. I think it's okay, but I think it never really grabbed me. Like I know a lot of other people grabs them a lot more, but um I feel like
I think it's the
that song,
percussion that
because I
does it
feel
for
like
me.
other songs, like I feel like the second side of Deep Purple is like Fault Line and The Painter, White and Rosemary.
Mm,
I give White and Rosemary a 3. I think I would go higher on that if anything. That's a really rocking song. But
mhm.
yeah, I just I don't know that Chasing Shadows might have been kind of something that maybe almost turned me off of that album early on. And yeah, I might go a little higher on it, maybe a
I don't
3.5.
know. Like I just remember personally, Chasing Shadows was the one that drew me in because I thought it was heavier than the first two previous albums with the Ian Pace's percussion coming in like that. And then the way that the percussion ended the
Mm-hmm.
song, I just thought was really just heavy for the 60s, and it was just really, it was driving. Like immediately I knew like, okay, this is different than the previous two albums. Like what I'm in for is going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
better. Um, and I wasn't wrong. So that I thought that I wouldn't call it a barn burner to start off the album, but
No, no.
it's definitely in that league of just like what a great way to kick off the album.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So
but I'm satisfied with my rating on it.
that kind of rounds out Mark 1, I think. I don't the concerto I think we can kind of skip, right? Because I mean, we've talked about that a lot, in which we love it. We love watching and listening to it, but it's hard to rank it the same way you'd rank a song. So we kind of just gave it straight
Mm-hmm.
threes across the board. Um Even though there's parts of the concerto that are a 5. I don't think there's any part of the concerto that's below a 3, but when you're ranking a 15-minute movement, it's hard to say, oh, because of this one awesome 5 part that we're going to give the whole song a 5. But it's
Yeah.
just a difficult one to rank. So in
Yeah.
rock,
Yeah. I mean, that's,
any
yeah. So in rock,
anything on in rock that's jumping out to you? I know there's a few I've been
um,
called on. Starting within rock is when I start to get a lot of crap from people. Notably, the first notable two are Flight of the Rat and Into the Fire, giving them both I gave them both a 3.5, and I've been challenged by that on numerous listeners. But I stand by that one because Flight of the Rat never really, if anything, and this is going to get me in more trouble, but I'd go lower on Flight of the Rat. I don't have a problem with it.
oh, you suck. You
I know
suck.
I get problems from you too, but it's I don't know. I like it,
I
but
would have
I
go.
I don't know. It just
What is it about it that doesn't hit you?
I think it's the spread the word around the rats and like I think it's I don't know. I don't know if that makes a good argument or a bad argument, but there's something about the rhythm of it that just like I'm like, again, I don't hate the song. I wouldn't give it a 5. I just to me it feels like a filler song.
All right. Well, I looking at my rating, like if anything, I feel like I would go up. Like I
Yeah.
probably would like now I'd probably give Flight of the Rat a 5 just based on John Lord's keyboard solo
Yeah.
alone.
Oh, the solo section is
Because
great.
like
And
I could still like it's still listening to it just like makes my hair stand up on end. So I would definitely bump my rating up on that.
so I think
So
yeah, based on the solo, I think it's the vocal part of it that I don't care for. Obviously, Gillan singing is amazing as always, but I think that just the melody of the song just kind of feels tedious to me. So maybe that's why I don't like it as much as other songs on the album.
no, I think there's I politely disagree. Um, I mean, I like it. I
Yeah.
think that's because we've talked about how some of Gillan's melodies, like you were talking, da, 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 da,
Yeah.
it just kind of seems pretty basic or goes along with, the melody of the guitar, the music or whatever. But I don't know. I just feel like there were like the way that he's singing in this and some of the, I guess, ad libs that he throws in, like right before Lord's keyboard solo, you hear him in the background going like, oh, he just like he
Yeah.
does,
Yeah.
he just kind of yells out or something. It feels really like live or whatever. And it's like little things like that are always just like get me going, especially before probably arguably one of the best John Lord solos ever, because you could just
Yeah.
the only time I've ever been like, wow, you can like headbang to like a freaking organ solo. What the hell is this? And I still feel that way. Like it's one of those things I'll never get tired of. Um, but yeah, so I would go up on my rating. You said you might go down.
Mhm.
Um,
Which is
and
not going to earn me anything with our listeners. But again, it's not
nope,
where I'm ranking
I
it
am the
in terms
golden
of a
boy today.
I'm ranking it in terms of Deep Purple. So it's like obviously I love the album, I love the song, I
Yeah.
like the song, but I'm not. It's not to me. It's maybe maybe one of the weaker tracks on the album to me. Um,
Right.
so there is
And
one song on this album that I think I would change to a 5. Do you know what it is?
um, Bloodsucker.
Yep. I gave that a 4,
Ah,
which is not
I
a
know.
bad rating at all, obviously. But yeah, if I had to do it again, I might give it a 5 because to me that's the album. That's the song that always stuck out to me on this album as just being so heavy and just so rocket. I just remember listening to this for the first time at Paul's house and hearing this come out of the little tiny his little tiny speakers on his computer desk and being like, whoa, just
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how heavy it was for something that was at that point, 20 years old. Um, it was great. I would probably adjust that one up. Everything else I th-
I'm
on
probably
this I think is okay as far as our ratings go.
well, the only thing that I would probably change to is Speed King. I gave a 4. I'd probably give it a 5 now.
Yeah,
I don't know what my thinking was of giving it a 4 back then, but Speed King is like, especially um uh Gillan's like wail coming out of the guitar solo. It's like one of my top screams from Gillan.
yeah, yeah. I don't know that I
Where he
moved
does that thing
my
and
score,
he
but
laughs like at that like absolute like highest register that he can reach.
mhm.
Like and that like all the chaos of the music going on underneath them, it's just like I remember like it just sounding like it's just ready to fall apart and then they go right back into the verse and I'm like
Yeah, oh, yeah,
still one
yeah,
of those things to this day that's just like Jesus, good God, how did they even do that? Like, so yeah, I would probably go up on my rating on that, but I'd be embarrassed if I gave it anything lower. But
yeah. Well, that's a good call. I think I'd hang tight with my 4, maybe a 4.5, but it's a really
mhm.
good song, good great opener, and if anything, giving it a 5 just for the ushering in of this new era. When you think about the last thing you've heard from them was April, which was just they went out with a banger with Mark One, and then to come in with
Yeah,
Speed King, and to just kind of not just to come in with Speed King, but to maintain that intensity for the entire album, basically, and show
yes,
how like this is where Deep Purple's really truly born. They were kind of it seemed until that point they were just kind of messing around. They didn't really have as much focus or direction, like obviously they did some great stuff in Mark
yeah.
One, but this is where they kind of set the tone for what was going to happen for the next 50 years, basically. um
That's a pretty good point though, is that which you said that that set the tone for the intensity of the whole album. Yeah, right. The entire In Rock album is pretty feels pretty intense,
oh yeah,
which I never really consciously thought about before. But when you think about it, as compared to the previous three Mark One albums, like they were like decent, and then Deep Purple was good, and then In Rock was just like whoa, like all of a sudden it was just like
hmm
they were just like intense the whole time, like just on fire
yeah.
and really cohesive and yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And I could see why some fans might have been felt let down by Fireball, because Fireball gets a little crap from at the time. I
Mhm.
should say at the time. In retrospect, I think a lot of people look at it really fondly, but at the time, people were like, "Oh, Fireball," and it didn't get as good of critical reviews because I don't think they kept that same. They've got a few things on the album that are uh, a little different, but that was Fireball was one my early favorite Deep Purple album because I thought it was cool that they were trying some different stuff. And then, uh,
A little more polished
right. So
too.
coming to Fireball, anything jumping out at your Fireball? Now I've been called to task, as we know by Rich, for my rating on Demon's Eye. I only give it a 3.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with them on that one. Like, what's up with that? Because Demon's Eye is really good.
I know I gave it a 3.5. I like Demon's Eye. My thing is I guess I come from it with, like I said, I like it, but it's something I only heard more recently because I had the US version that had Strange Kind of Woman in its place, and I ranked Strange Kind of Woman a 4. But I gave Demon's Eye 3.5. You give it a 4, and I'm the devil and you're a hero. So there you go. For a point 0.5 difference. I like Demon's Eye. I just, to me, I don't have the same familiarity with that. And I know that's not a good excuse because if it's a good song, it's a good song. And it is a good song. 3.5 is a good rating. I just I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me as much as other songs on the album. There is one song on the album though. There's one song on the album that I go lower, and there's one song on the album that I'd go higher.
Hmm.
Unless you got anything else to say about Demon's Eye.
I think maybe I liked it because I think the first Deep Purple album that I got was the Deepest Purple compilation, because
Yep.
back then I would get compilations to get into bands before I started buying the albums, because you couldn't just grab an entire catalog like you can now. And I remember Demon's Eye being on it and thinking that it was a different vocalist, which was weird because, like, how could I listen to like Stormbringer and be like, wow, Ian Gillan sounds different? But it was Coverdale. And then listen to
From
Demon's
Hush to
Eye, and
to Hush to Smoke on the Water to Stormbringer. This guy's vocal range
I
is
know.
unbelievable.
Well, I didn't know who was who, but I just remember
Right.
hearing Demon's Eye and thinking it wasn't Ian Gillan, then finding out it was. And I don't know why, because I mean, it does sound like Ian Gillan. So it's like I have no idea. Like, I think maybe some of the in the verses, he's saying in like a maybe a different kind of register that I wasn't used to, but
And it's like
I
very
still remember
downbeat.
thinking,
It's
I don't know. I
it's
just think it had a good groove to it, and
yeah, it
the
does.
the keyboard solo is really good. It was one of those songs where you could just kind of like, go like this and like, snap your finger and just kind
Hmm.
of groove along to it. So it didn't necessarily have to be a high tempo or whatever. But like, unlike you, it was one of the first songs that I was exposed to, and then later on, subsequently, it didn't come on any albums that I heard until later on when it was put on the bonus tracks on like the Fireball CD. And then I'm like, okay, good, there it is where it belongs. But I already knew about it, and maybe that's why I liked it, because I didn't discover it later.
Yeah, I think hearing it in context over the course of 20 some plus years for you probably got it favor, whereas me, it just still feels like kind of a newer song. I didn't have that compilation, and I don't even remember hearing. I probably heard it back in the day at some point, but it never, like, it always, it's weird to hear an album for 25 years and then all of a sudden one of the songs is swapped out with another song, so it just kind of, it's almost like jarring. Nothing against the song. Maybe if I'd heard it as that compilation, I would have a
Mhm.
better feeling towards it. Again, I like the song. I always preferred Strange Kind of Woman.
But I mean, by that logic here, we have I'm Alone, which is a B-side, and I didn't hear it until it came out on that
Yeah.
that extended CD, and we both gave that a 4.
Hmm.
And I hadn't previously heard that when I was younger, and I thought that that was an awesome song. I'm like, yeah, this definitely is early Mark II. This sounds like it belongs on Fireball. So maybe that
maybe
song just
it's
hit you different,
well, maybe it's the expectations too of knowing I'm listening to a bonus track versus knowing I'm like in the thick of the album. That could be it.
I
So,
guess.
um, so as far as album, there's one song where it will probably not surprise you that I would go lower. You know what that
Mhm.
is? Can you guess?
Is it an animal?
It is an animal.
Is it a cousin of the donkey?
It is a. Is it a mule is the offspring of a horse and a donkey, right?
Maybe, I
I
don't
think
know.
it is. I think a mule is like it's mules can't reproduce, but
So,
if a
okay, I didn't know
donkey
that.
if a donkey and a horse make sweet love, they if a donkey and a
It
horse
produced the mule.
fall in love and love each other very much, um, they hug in bed for a while and they create a mule, I believe. But
Mhm.
I gave this song a 3. I would easily bring it down to a 2. It's
Yikes.
yeah, I know. A lot like we've talked about on the show. I love it live. I find it very tedious. It's I know there's a lot of people who are gonna be really angry at me about this, but I got to be honest. I don't care for the song. It's too long. It's too plodding. It's based on one of my least favorite Beatles songs, which also gets me a lot of crap because that's a beloved Beatles song too. But there's something about doom dash and hearing that go on for 5.5 minutes or however long that song is
Mhm.
just too much. I know there's parts where it kind of changes up a little bit, but to me it's just too. And this is a beloved Mark II song, probably a lot of people's favorite from this album, but I just got to be honest, it just never did anything for me. um so I would go that, but
Well,
there that's just me. I know a lot of other people love the mule.
I mean, I would hold, what did I rate it originally?
3.5.
3.5. I would keep that. I would say that the live version, without looking at the 72 Denmark, I probably gave that song a higher rating. Or would have I did we even rate that or no?
I don't remember. But
No, we
Made
didn't. I
in
don't think we
Japan,
no, but if we,
I'm skipping ahead to Made in
yeah.
Japan. You stuck with a 3.5 and I gave it a 4 on Made in Japan
Okay.
because
All right. Well,
I do love it live.
either way, I mean, I think that I would stick with that rating and say that it probably is, well, I guess based on that, slightly better live. But I mean, I think that falls under the category of one of those songs where, I think it was made to be a live song. So even though the studio version is good, like the spontaneity of the
Mhm.
live performance would make it even better.
Yeah.
Kind of like "You Fool No One" or
Well, we
song like
both
that.
also ranked the album version of Child in Time as a 4.5, which we didn't talk about, but
Mhm.
the live version we give a 5 on multiple versions.
Yeah.
So, I mean 4.5 is obviously good, but uh, well, I think the album version
Hmm.
of that's great. That's a song that's just made to be live, much like the mule. But the
Right.
one song on Fireball, I like Anyone's Daughter's really cool. I remember the first time I heard Anyone's Daughter, hearing those like guitar swells and thinking, "Oh my god, this is so cool." Then it turns into kind of like almost a silly little country song, and then it goes, so
Yeah.
that I love that song. It's really, and it's just a funny, fun song to listen to. But it got
Hmm.
a lot of grief from fans at the time. But I like that song. But Fools, I gave a 4. I might even go higher on that one because I really love how heavy that song is.
Hmm. Okay.
I might go to a 4.5 on that
Um.
one.
Wow. Okay. I would, just thinking back, I'd probably stick with the 3.5.
And then No One Came to close it out. I might go higher on No One Came. I like that one a lot too. But
Hmm. I would stay on that one. I feel like I would playing poker or
stay.
blackjack or whatever. Stay. Well, hit
Um,
me. Um.
all right. So next up we've got Machine Head, which obviously we rated pretty favorably. People might be angry. There's no 5s on it though, so people might be angry about that. But um, nothing lower than a 4 and a few
Mhm.
4.5. So anything jumping out to you that you would change?
Um. You know what? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking and I'm like, okay, all these like look right.
Mhm.
on a given day, I rated pretty much everything a 4 except for Highway Star. I rated a little higher.
Uh-huh.
On a given day, I might rate something like a half point higher,
Yeah.
but I think they're all worthy of their ratings. I think that um, something like Lazy or Space Truckin' would get a higher rating because, again, we were talking about that live experience um, uh, kind of bump that a song would get from a live setting.
Hmm.
But I think these are all fair, and you gave Pictures of Home a little higher than I did, which is a great song, but you
Yeah.
didn't go really any higher
No.
um,
And this, I
than
mean,
that.
I love this album. It's obviously it's a classic. It's really solid from start to
Mhm.
finish. It's got like it's a lot of Deep Purple albums. I think more so than any Deep Purple album, it seems the most consistent. Like it's one solid unit. Everything sounds, the production sounds exactly the same. I think on all the songs, and which can,
Mhm.
which makes it sounds like you're almost listening to a set list. And obviously, a lot of that's due to the circumstances with how it was recorded and everything. Um, but yeah, like I know there's a lot of people that probably give every track on this a 5 because it's most people's favorite Deep Purple album. And yeah, it's super super solid. Uh, I mean, obviously, we're not saying anything that hasn't already been said about Machine Head. Um,
Yeah,
but
I'm surprised we gave Smoke on the Water as high as we did, not because it is not good, but because like I thought like we would be sick of it, like low. But I think we also intentionally tried to
yeah,
listen to it like impartially, which I would still give it a 4.
yeah, same here. And I think we discussed that even at the time, which was like it's really hard to take ourselves out of the fact that we're sick of hearing this song. It's one of those things like hearing them being at the show and hearing them play it live is like, oh my god, this is great. But yeah, it's so overplayed that we were trying to be as objective as possible in our rating that as a 4. If
Right.
anything would go lower on the album for me, it would be Smoke on the Water. Um, but there you have it.
But yeah, no, I think that these are pretty consistent.
All right, now we got probably skip over Made in Japan, right? I don't think we need to.
Yeah, I mean it's a live album. I mean, I don't I don't think that there's anything uh, well, I mean, we could maybe look at it really, really fast. I mean, we gave everything 4s or 4.5, except for me, I gave the Mule a 3.5.
Yeah, which is weird. You went
Um,
lower on the Mule on the live, and I went higher. Like I gave it a 4. Or did you give
yeah.
it the same? The Mule.
No, I think I gave it the same.
You
I
gave
think
the
I might have
same, and I
given it
went
the
higher.
same. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I don't see anything contentious on this album.
And for all those people that are mad at me about the Mule, I would not even think of changing my Made in Japan ranking, but I would, like I said, I would go lower on the album version. Um, okay, well,
All
there you
right.
have it.
So now we have
Now we have who do we think we
put on the
are?
boxing gloves.
The most contentious album probably between the two of us. And the conventional wisdom is that this album is not very good. As I stated before, it's my favorite Mark II album, and probably your least. Well, not maybe not your least favorite, but there are some pretty big glaring changes. I know there's songs that you would go lower on. um,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's like I thought about it, and this album makes me this album makes me sad. Like I listened to it, and it's like it doesn't give me the same kind of energy and doesn't make me happy listening to it like the previous Purple albums. Maybe because I know that this is the end of the first incarnation of Mark II. Maybe it's with that knowledge and the fact that it could have been better based on everything that we said, because we know that after this, Burn was like a smoking, like Rainbow was smoking. It's like none of these guys were out of their prime. And this album sounds like it was made by a bunch of musicians that weren't in their prime, when it was really just kind of disjointed or they didn't give a shit.
mhm.
So, which is
Yeah, I
uh,
mean,
sad. to me.
I didn't learn until much later, after listening to this album for 20 something years. I didn't learn about the actual what was going on in the band at the time. I only knew the songs. I didn't know. I don't think I even really thought when I first heard this, again coming out of the speakers on Paul's computer desk, um, falling in love with this album. I had no idea about what happened after this and that this was the last album from this lineup. I just knew the songs, didn't know the drama. The only thing I kind of learned about, and I think Paul telling me, because I think he would go on those like early like news group sort of things where they'd have like the ASCII
Yeah.
font, and there was one on Deep Purple, and I think he learned that Smooth Dancer was, all about Ritchie Blackmore and Ian Gillan hating him, and or maybe that's too strong, but about their differences. And him
Yeah.
telling me that and being like, oh wow, that's funny, he wrote the song. And then we talked later about how the song's all about Ritchie Blackmore, and Gillan being even more upset that Ritchie didn't seem to either notice or care that the lyrics are about him.
Oh,
But
Richie.
yeah, I have such fond memories of this album, and I've always loved it. And I think it was a little bit more experimental than some of their other stuff, which is maybe what I really liked. I can understand how people coming off of Machine Head, it's a tough album to follow, but I always preferred this to Machine Head, which I know is unpopular. But the first song, I know, uh, we both ranked Women from Tokyo pretty high. I gave it a 4.5 and you gave it a 4. But then Mary Long was the big one
Yeah.
that I get a lot of crap for.
Yeah. I'm sure I challenge your 5 as I'm sure you challenge my 3.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't challenge your 3. The thing, I can understand like that I'm in the minority for saying this is my favorite. I'm not saying it's the best, because people love to say this is the best song and I'm the only truth is what I think. It's what I think. For me, it's my favorite Mark II song.
And it
I
always has been, so I wouldn't expect that you would rate it any lower.
Right, no, I would not go any lower on that at all,
Yeah.
and I have not changed my mind, obviously, based on people saying I'm crazy. But yeah, it's one of those things. I understand that that's an odd view. I understand there are very few people that would share that view, and I get it. I'm not offended by anyone who thinks that the song is. You rated it basically as an average song, and I rated it as one of my top tier. If
Mhm.
you want more on that, you can go to our episode on Who Do We Think We Are and listen to the rationale behind it. But it at the time in my life when I heard it and the lyrics and everything, I just thought it was an awesome song. Still do love it, and not gonna apologize for that.
Mhm.
um Super Trooper, you gave a 3 and I gave a 4. Smooth Dancer, you gave a 3.5 and a 4.
I stand
um
by these.
Rat Bat Blue, I gave a 4.5. I might even knock that one up to a 5. That's
Mhm.
always love that song. The riff, the solo, the song just kicks so much ass.
So that's like that's your I feel like that's your Flight of the Rat.
Yes, yeah, as far as like being like a John Lord showpiece.
Which it is. I always put those because they both have rat in the title, which I thought was really interesting.
That's right. The two
But
the two
like
opposing poles of, it's like the north and the south end of a magnet.
right. But I think those two kind of like songs with rat in the title were and don't get me wrong, this is one of my favorites.
Mhm.
I would favor Flight of the Rat over this one, but this one is like you said, they're both John Lord showpieces, and I just think that he was way more dialed in and intense and reckless abandon in in rock than on here. But this one still was like this keyboard solo like blew my mind on
And
this.
this keyboard solo is more of a composed. Obviously, you've got that crazy fast synth thing that's like nuts. That's like very composed. But then he goes into this screeching, squealing organ solo that's more like improv. That's more what you'd expect from the standard Mark II John Lord. So you've got kind of both ends of that covered. I think where this song wins out over Flight of the Rat for me is that I like the song a lot more. I like the the,
Mhm.
the melody. The lyrics are weird, but I like them.
Right.
And the riff to me is just, I think it's one of Ritchie's best riffs. I love it. So there you go. And that takes us to Place in Line, which I'm sure you're gonna have something to say about.
I'd go lower.
Yes.
I don't know why I gave it a 3. I'd give it a 2 now.
Yeah, I figured
Like
you would.
I haven't like, and I know that like maybe people think I'm being unfair because honestly, haven't listened to it since we listened to it for the
Mhm.
episode. I don't want to listen to it. Like,
Exact-
thinking about listening to it makes me depressed. I don't want to hear this song too. I would definitely go down on my rating for this one. I think it's a terrible song. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think what I understand, like you always didn't like that really low register. I'm living. You didn't like
Yeah.
that, which is it was weird. You don't hear Gillan do that very often. And then you didn't like the down 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 down, the standard like lazy blues part of it,
Mm-hmm.
which I totally get. I think where it kind
Yeah.
of picks up for me is the "Don't you think we're gonna make it?" Like I like that part where it kind of picks up a little bit and is a little more upbeat. I agree with you. I think I gave it a 3.5. If anything, I'd move it down to a 3, but I think the 0.5 is probably for that like more upbeat part of it, that especially the ending part. But yeah, if the whole song was that boom 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 boom, like I would rank that in mule territory. Like it's too repetitive, too low
Yeah.
key. I wouldn't care for it.
Yeah. No, I don't think that they really mastered the whole integrating their blues and their classical side until their next album
Hmm.
with
Yes.
Coverdale and Hughes. That's just my opinion. This to me always just sounded like, hey, let's just do a 1 4 5.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like it couldn't. I don't know. There's no energy. There's no originality. Even when they picked it up in that part that you're talking about. I remember saying that even Ritchie's solo didn't have anything extraordinary in it. It
Hmm.
wasn't didn't it didn't like move me. It didn't have any feeling. It was just like, let's go through the motions. Let's do this kind of blues tune, and it just doesn't do anything.
Well, I'm always surprised because whenever I see posts about this, or whenever I post like the anniversary of the album or whatever, and I ask for people's favorite, Place in Line is mentioned. Maybe I just notice it more because I know how much you hate it, but I'm always surprised it's always ranked in people's as being a beloved track from the fans. So maybe there's just something about it that we're not quite getting. Like to me, it's without question the weakest song on the album. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, you're also talking about this is a beloved song on an album, which you just said earlier is one of the least
mhm.
favorite albums of most Purple fans. So who even knows how anybody really feels about this album? It seems just a confusing album all around. Like most people don't like it, but that's people's favorite song, probably aside from Woman from Tokyo. It's like, I don't know. It's just that whole thing right there is just, I don't know. It's a mess. That's how I feel, like it's a mess.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, that kind of closes out that album. We both ranked Our Lady pretty high, and I
I
wouldn't change that. I really like that track.
Yeah, I'd stay with that.
All right, so I guess that brings us to Mark III, coming into Burn. Obviously, we rated that album pretty high.
Hmm.
Um, anything jumping out at you on Burn? I gave Burn. I gave the song Burn a 5.
Yeah.
You gave it a 4.5.
Um, you know what? I personally might like now bump up Burn and Might Just Take Your Life to fives.
Both of them. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I love Might Just Take Your Life.
Yeah, you gave them both 4.5s on the original.
Yeah. Sail Away, I'd probably give a 4.5. I'd edge that one up a little bit.
Hmm.
You Fool No One, definitely keep it a 5. I give it a 6 if I could. Um,
Yeah,
Mistreated, I you know.
I gave Sail Away a 4.5, and I might bump that up to a
Mhm.
5. I really love that one.
Mistreated, I would say 4.5 just because it's great, but the live version I would definitely give 5 to. That's one of the but I mean, album version is awesome, but I would keep most of my ratings. If anything, I would go up a little bit on a couple of them.
Yeah.
On I don't see anything really. Yeah, and then A200 and Coronarius Redig. I don't
Yeah.
think we would, there's nothing really there.
Yeah.
that I would
A200 gets
change. Or,
a lot of love from people too, and not that we had anything against it. We just thought it was kind of it was kind of,
meandering.
it seemed like filler. It seemed weird. It still does to not end on Mistreated. I've been losing my mind, and then it
Yeah,
goes into this weird boom, ba 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 boom, ba 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 boom, ba ba. This weird little like march almost, which it kind
yeah,
of to me, I don't want to say spoils, but it kind of messes with the whole mood of the ending of Mistreated. And it's a cool, quirky little instrumental that I like, but it's always seemed weird and kind of out of place on that album.
hmm
But all right. So that brings us to another often maligned album, which is Stormbringer. And when we post it, almost this, along with Who Do We Think We Are, is considered to be. I feel like Come Taste the Band has had this almost like renaissance where people are starting to think of it differently, or people listen to it for the first time in a long time. And I've had so many people contact me saying, "Oh God, after your episode, I listened to it again and realized it's a lot better than I thought it was." And I think Stormbringer is kind of in that same boat where people remember they listened to it in 1974 and didn't like it, and then decided they would just
right.
not give it another chance and continue disliking it for all these years.
hmm
Um, but Stormbringer obviously got a really high rating. I think that's our overall highest rating album, Deep Purple album. It's like neck and neck with Come Taste the Band. Um, but anything jumping out at you at Stormbringer as?
Now, I mean, for you, you're all 4.5s, fives, fours. You love the whole thing, so.
Yeah, I'm probably the main reason why it got such an overall high rating. But um,
No,
but
I would say, I would. Is there anything about my ratings that you would be like, what were you thinking?
not what were you thinking, but
Or would you give it more? Like I'm looking at mine, like Love Don't Mean a Thing, Highball Shooter, The Gypsy were like 3.5.
yeah.
I'd stay with those because I still think that they're good average songs, but they don't. Even when we listened to The Gypsy like a couple of weeks ago, I still thought it was good, but not like great, like four great, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and I gave it a 4. So
yeah, but I mean, I would say that that's still pretty consistent. I would say that more of the things we want to re-examine, or that might be more controversial, would be like if the further back that we go, where we started, like Mark 1, early Mark 2. Um, I feel like some of these might not change.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know that there's much I would change on this. I gave the Gypsy a 4, and I would stick to that. I think I really like that song, and we both ended with Soldier of Fortune as a 5, and it's kind of the same idea as Mistreated, which is, imagine if after Soldier of Fortune they put on like a weird goofy instrumental. It would kind of really ruin the whole vibe.
Yeah,
But we both love that song, obviously.
yeah. No, the way the album ended was perfect. Like if they was like put a goofy instrumental after, it would have been like wah wah.
I feel like I'm being unfair to A200, but it's a quirky little song. It's just
Yeah, but A200 could have gone somewhere else. Like it
right.
could have stayed on the album, but it could have the track order could have been different.
Yeah, I think if it had been shorter and like a prelude to another song, it could have been
hmm
a little bit different. I don't know
Right.
where you would tack it on, but um, that's pretty much it for Stormbringer, which brings us to Come Taste the Band. So obviously some pretty good high ratings. Actually, well, let's go back to Stormbringer for one. I'm surprised you only gave Highball Shooter a 3.
hmm
It seems up your alley.
Okay.
Explain
No,
yourself.
yeah. um, yeah. Hamina. um, I don't know. I guess it's just like kind of like how I was pressing you on Demon's Eye. Why didn't you give it more? It's
Yeah.
just like it's a good song, but it just doesn't there's something in it that's just there's a missing piece
Hmm. And
that
yeah,
doesn't really hit me.
I'm just surprised because for some reason to me it seemed like a song that you would rank higher than me.
Yeah, no, I can get that, but there's just something there that's missing for me. And
Hmm.
I guess one of those things like you can't really put your finger on it, but just thinking about it for like right now without like listening back to the track or whatever is like I feel like it's maybe missing a little edge.
Hmm.
I mean, I know that it's really like high tempo. You got the dual vocals from Coverdale and Hughes, but there's like I don't know, there's just a little something missing.
Hmm.
There's a little edge missing there, and you know, I I stand with my rating.
That's fair enough. All right, come taste the band. Anything jumping out at you?
Um, mm, yeah, I probably I would probably rate Lady Luck a little bit higher.
Yeah,
Like you gave it a 3.5. I might have done the same.
you gave it a three. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't. I know I can't, and there's nothing I'd really challenge you on. I can get it tighter. I know why you gave it a 5, so there's no secrets there.
Yeah, getting tighter is it's pretty great.
Yeah.
I would not change that one at all.
Yeah, no, I don't see anything on your rating or mine, especially yours, where I would just be like, why did you rate it so low? I think a lot of it is why would you rate this so low? But it's like
Hmm.
there's no really low ratings on here. Um,
No, no, this album got pretty got a lot of respect from us. Obviously, not surprising to any of our listeners.
yeah, I wouldn't move
Um,
anything around. Maybe this time around, Ode to G, I might give it a 5. I might give it a 4.5. So I
yep.
might bump that rating up a little bit too.
Just the Ode to G part or the this time around.
Both.
Okay.
Because I mean, obviously, like this time around is like amazing. I've
Mhm.
always loved it. Um, Maybe the Ode to G part, maybe it brought it down a little bit for me because it's like it still maintains the same melody and everything. But I mean, I don't know. It doesn't. If you were gonna put the two parts of the track back to back, like obviously, like this time around is like way up here.
Hmm.
It's way better. The Lord and Hughes just going to town.
I think I talked about it in the episode for sure, but um, if they were two separate tracks, I'd give them both a five easily. Um, and if anything, that holds "Come Taste the Band" back slightly in our rankings. Like it could have easily gotten two fives, um, based on the weird sequencing and the fact that they call that one song.
Hmm.
Um, it's funny that a 4 minute Captain Beyond track can be nine different songs, but this giant whatever 6 minute track or however long it is grouped together as
Yeah.
one. But I think yeah, so to me that's the highlight of it's one of my favorite all time 1-2 punches on any album, Deep Purple or otherwise.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would rank that. I would obviously not change that at all. Which, if you've been paying attention to this show over the past 99 episodes, will probably not surprise you. It does get mentioned fairly often that's my favorite Deep Purple track of all time. Um, which brings us to most people, I would say, his favorite track on this album, which is "You Keep On Moving."
Hmm.
So you gave that a five. I gave it a 4.5.
I wouldn't change anything. What was the 0.5 that kept you from giving it a 5?
I don't know. I think we talked about that in the episode. I'm sure we did, but I can't really put my finger on it. I love that song. I think it's a great closer. I think to me it's very similar to like the Gypsy and Soldier of Fortune, and in that like 1-2, here's This Time Around, here's You Keep On Moving. It closes out the album so great. Sometimes these albums, like other albums we've covered in the extended family, kind of tend to fizzle out. Um, or they have like a very weak B side or a side two or whatever you want to call it. Um, and that ends maybe with one strong track. But You Keep On Moving, I don't know. I don't know if I would move it up to a five. I love it. I love the feeling it creates. I love like their harmonized vocals together. But yeah, I just can't put my finger on why I'm not giving it a 5, because it seems like it hits all the marks that it should to get there. But
Well, that's just more proof that music is subjective.
it sure is.
So,
Um, but yeah.
so is there? I know we just covered Deep Purple proper, just Deep Purple, the main band. But is there anything else in the ratings kind of floating around that maybe honorable mentions that you were looking at that you were probably like, what were you thinking or what was I thinking?
Well, I think. Well, firstly, I think uh, we've covered all the Deep Purple albums through 1976. The only other album we've done was Whoosh, which we did like listen to it the first time as we covered it. But I think we've also talked about. I listened to it dozens of times after that, and then looking at Whoosh, I'd be like, wow, I think I changed almost all of my ratings because on repeated listens, that songs just really like hit me a lot more. Like we weren't unfavorable to the album, but we were mostly hovering in the 3.3, 3.5, some 4s, because we were hearing it for the first time. So I think we can definitely revisit that album in the future, maybe on its anniversary coming up this summer. But that covers all the first phase Deep Purple albums through 1976. The only one I would say that really jumps out at me as being something that I've gotten a lot of crap for, me personally, is I gave Stargazer a 4.5. And that's a hard one to defend.
From Rainbow.
For any Rainbow fan, for you, for anyone, because obviously I'm trying to look it up here. Rainbow, where is it? But yeah, Rainbow Rising, here it is. Yeah, obviously you gave it a 5, but I gave Light in the Black a 5, and I gave Stargazer a 4.5. So it's not like I trashed the song. I love the song.
You trashed it.
Yeah, and maybe I just need to give it some more, a few more listens. I can't on the top of my head say that I would change it to a 5, which I know is sacrilege when you're talking about Rainbow Rising. Like Stargazer is widely regarded as the greatest Rainbow song, maybe greatest Ritchie Blackmore song. And again, I love it a lot. I don't know that I would change it. I like Light in the Black more, which I know is odd. But talking about a 1-2 punch to close an album, holy crap, the two of those back to back it's intense.
I mean, I don't know. I would side with you on that one just because, I mean, I gave Stargazer and Light in the Black a 5, but I think that Light in the Black is, if it's possible, more of a 5 for me. Like if I had to choose between them, it would be Light in the Black, like 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. So, but I mean, that's just my preference. I mean, you remember me yelling like 5 as soon as the song was over. Like I already had my mind made up. So, but I would, I mean, 4.5 for Stargazer is not peanuts. So
no, yeah, it's not like if I gave Stargazer a 3 or 2, I would understand the outrage. But I think it's just the fact that it's like,
yeah,
I think it's when you hear somebody else say a 4.5, it's like, how could you just not give it that extra little bump, and I don't know what, again, I don't know what it is. It's really hard to describe. And I'm sure everyone out there has got their own songs like that too, that it's like, there is a difference between a 4.5 and a 5, and a 5 is the absolute top favorite song, listen to it any day, and 4.5 is a song you really love. It's just, there's going to be those differences on the album, and it's really hard to put into words what they are.
Yeah. And I think like that 5 would be like that unconditional love type thing. Whereas a 4.5, you'd be like, yeah, I'd listen to it, but I love it and I would listen to it, but just like maybe 6 days out of the week.
Yeah, exactly. I need one day off.
which is still amazing. It's still high praise. So it's, but anyway, yeah, I don't know how you get crap for that because it's not like you gave it a 3.
Well, yeah, it's because
like Stargazer's okay.
Like I said, it's because it's not like I was at all like, I could take it or leave it. I think it's the fact that it's such a beloved song. It's preposterous for anyone to think that you could not give it the top rating of all time.
But you know what? I mean, I've heard guys on other podcasts talk about the Rainbow albums, and they like they like the 80s Rainbow albums better
Oh,
than
yeah.
the Dio ones.
Sure.
And I can see that because
They're very different. So it appeals to a different,
exactly.
a completely different, I don't even know what the word is, but a different taste. So if you're into that era and that style, the production is different, the song, that you can still hear the Ritchie tone in it, but it's like two different bands.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a world of difference between having Graham Bonnet or Joe Lynn Turner singing these songs and the kind of accessibility hard rock, the accessibility of the hard rock that Ritchie and the band was doing at that time, as opposed to the more kind of straight ahead, epic, almost steeped in this medieval feeling or this like otherworldly feeling that say like Rising had, or even Blackmore's Rainbow, which is a little more kind of feels like really kind of old school, or like not throwback, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like really old fashioned compared to like,
Yeah.
5 or 6 years later Rainbow.
Mhm.
But I mean, they're two completely different things. It's like one day I could just be like, yeah, I want to hear, Down to Earth, or I'm in the mood for Straight Between the Eyes, or something really, more, I don't know, modern sounding.
Yeah, I mean,
Than
the only
that.
constant between Rising and Straight Between the Eyes is Blackmore. Everything,
Yeah.
everyone else changed in the band multiple times between
Yeah.
the two albums. So yeah, you
Yeah.
get a very different feel, and I think the more I've listened to the JLT era stuff, the more appreciation I have had for it. I was much more willing to, I don't know, write it off isn't the right term, but I was much more willing to just be like, it's just not as, I'm not as much of a fan of it. But the more I listen to it, the more I love that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll, I mean, I've said it before too, and I will say I wrote it off because it's like, oh, Joe Lynn Turner, any of the like those, we talked about it before, those hired gun type of people,
Yeah.
those just kind of like generic, arena rock singers, whatever. Next,
Yep.
and it's like, and it was a really shallow point of view to have, but upon getting to know, just talk about JLT specifically, just getting to know what he can do and how great his voice is, doesn't really matter. I mean,
Right.
good music is good music, and if you're in the mood for that, like I've said before, if I'm in the mood for something kind of 80s sounding, or more montage sounding, like it's going to be in the, a Rocky workout scene type thing, then yeah, I want to listen to that. But if I want to hear something more straight ahead classic rock, that's going to be like obviously 70s sounding and like a little more stripped down, then I'll listen to that. You can like both.
Yep.
And it's great that you can have that diversity. Like, never mind Ritchie through all his different bands, but even just like Ritchie and Rainbow, like
Yep.
you can be like, yeah, I want to hear like Ritchie sounding like this now. It's like, oh, maybe I want to hear more modern sounding Ritchie. And then within the last 20 years, maybe want to, listen to Renaissance fair Ritchie.
Yep.
That's the beauty of that type of thing, is there's so much diversity.
Yeah. Ritchie covers a lot of bases. I mean, it's something in his catalog for everyone, whether you're,
Mhm.
you're everything from, like heavy metal to like blues to, Ren Fair. He covers it all. But anyway, that takes us through at least all the original 68 to 76 Deep Purple, or 75, or wherever you want to cut it off. And a little extra bonus Rainbow there. But let us know what you think. Next week we'll have our 100th episode extravaganza celebration, so please join us for that, and that'll kind of covers a few of the ratings for the first 100 episodes anyway, or 99. And yeah, next week we'll be back at you to celebrate episode 100.
Woo!
All right, I'll talk to you next week, my friend.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also give us a rating on iTunes to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.